All right, looks like we're live, and I'm here with my frequent sidekick, Artistic Layman.
Hello, kids.
Matt Forney's joining me,
Yeah, hey guys.
and also Argent's here.
Hey, I just have to say something. We live in a society. Logos rise up.
Exactly. Let retards rise up. So we got a few stories to talk about this week. Did I talk about E3 on a Saturday show or not? I can't. Was E3 this week or was it last week?
It was last week, but
Okay.
it ended
I can't fucking remember. I've been working so damn much overtime. The days are blurring together. I can't remember if I talked about E3 or not. There really wasn't much to talk about. I think I know I mentioned on A stream that every year I feel like I should cover E3 live, and I'm not really in a position where I could take off for it. And the way E3 is anymore, I need somebody else to sit with me on it, because I don't know. It just, even the Nintendo one didn't, there wasn't a ton of stuff. I mean, the Breath of the Wild 2 reveal was really cool, but who the hell knows when that's going to come out? And there's a bunch of other stuff, that looked cool, but, there wasn't really, for a lot of people, the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer was the big, oh my God moment. And it's just, what? It's probably going to be 3 years at least. And you never know with Nintendo. Sometimes they like to throw people for a loop, and it could be much further along than anyone knows. But it's probably 3 years away at least. I mean, I'll be lucky if President AOC isn't lining me up against the wall before I get to play it. So, so I don't know. One of these years, maybe I'll get around to doing live coverage E3, but there's just not much to cover anymore.
Wouldn't they just shut your channel down for restreaming?
Everybody seems to be doing the live coverage though.
Oh, okay.
There has to be some way to be able to do it. There's Zelda's ass. Luke right on schedule with Zelda's ass. Oh, that is a royal ass right there. There's no getting around that. So. Let's see. What else? What else did we have to talk about this week? We got we're going to talk about the Legos Rising. We're going to talk about Lauren Southern and the further collapse of the alt-right. A couple other little small stories. But first, I did a quick little video on this last night, but I'm going to cover it again because it's fucking funny and it makes me laugh. Once again, Davis Arini just can't fucking help himself with getting into shit. So he tweets on the Twitter machine yesterday. The @extra credits team explains why immigration to Western nations will destroy social trust and impoverish us all, using the game's DayZ as a model. And the extra credits guys. And Extra Credits respond. Now, Extra Credits is a YouTube channel where they cover games and other similar nerd stuff, and they try to have a more educational bent about it. But they're very, very left wing. They put out some good content, but they're pretty cut. Well, the Extra Credit guys respond, that's not what the tragedy of the commons means at all. Just the opposite. Paranoia and suspicion of others is a self-fulfilling prophecy that gets us nowhere. Please do not use our videos to justify your backwards and bigoted views. Davis responded to that the other day. I can't seem to find the responses now. Maybe he deleted them.
smart.
But he was basically whining you're bigoted for calling me bigoted and stuff like that. And whining I'm a fan. Why are you being mean to me?
And he's like, you should apologize for me for calling me a bigot.
Here's the thing. Look, the Extra Credit guys are a bunch of soy fucking cucks. There's no getting around that. That said, though, you don't just tweet at somebody here's this person's video. It means I'm going to tell you what it means, even though that's not the thing they intended and is indeed the polar opposite of what they believe. I'm going to say that their video means this. He didn't tweet this video that explains tragedy of the commons, you could easily apply this to the migrant crisis or something like that. No, he's like, they meant this thing that they clearly didn't mean. And he wonders why people get fucking pissy about that.
Like, well, the other thing, too, is like, knowing that they're left-wing and knowing that you're a public figure of right-wing views, why would you tweet something like that, period? Expecting them to, like, you know, give you kudos or whatever. Like, if I was on Twitter, and I'm not on Twitter, and you can't prove otherwise, and I tweeted, you know, support for some, like, some indie rock musician claim, like, this album is about, like, you know, against abortion or something, I would never do that, you know, because they're not going to fucking side with you, ever.
Even if troll, it might make sense.
Yeah, as a troll, yeah, but trust me, Arini's not no, trolling is gamma. Understand? Trolling and snark are gamma.
No, but like you could say the movie
having fun is gamma. Laughing at stupid people is gamma. It's effeminate. We're not the only people who make that argument are people who are always getting made fun of.
But like you could say the movie Elysium is ironically a super anti-immigration movie just because of the way it portrays, like unintentionally.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You wouldn't tweet at the Elysium director and say, clearly he meant this. Like, he says the extra credit team explains why immigration to Western nations will destroy. Like, they clearly weren't trying to do that.
By the way, Luke, I just checked and he did delete the tweets where he begged for an apology, but unluckily for him, I had it screen capped. So check your Skype, Luke. I sent you the screen cap.
I don't know. Like, I think as a joke, like if I don't know. So is your contention that this just that he wasn't being sarcastic?
No, he clearly wasn't. But my contention is that like he can't help himself with this. Like he
thought they were based and red pilled.
No, I don't know what he thought, but he thought that they were going to take kindly to him explaining what their video meant, even though they clearly didn't.
I genuinely want to. I'm curious how he became such a bitch. Like, yeah, you need to apologize. Like with the porcelain thing too, it's like you need to apologize to me. Like, does he not understand how the internet works? Does he not understand how like basic male behavior works? You see right there, you should apologize for calling one of your fans a bigot. I'm opposed to globalist corporations bleeding away native cultures. I don't see how that's bigoted. Seems that your assumptions about my views are what are actually bigoted. Democrats are the real bigots.
Nobody cares. Okay, like they don't care. That's the autistic thing about this. Why do you think that they give a shit? Why do they? First of all, nobody gives a shit what you think, anyways, Davis. But why do you think that? Like, imagine if some left-wing guy. Now, again, I'm not on Twitter. Luke has to run it for me because I'm too much of a 30-year-old boomer to get around my IP ban. But if I was on Twitter and somebody's like, "This video that Bechtloff made clearly is pointing to this thing that is the polar opposite of what he believes," I'm going to be like, "Yeah, I didn't mean it that way. You know, fuck you. You shouldn't be mean to me. Get fucked." Okay. Like, well, fuck yourself.
Well, it's such an inherently unmanly position because you're giving away all your cards. Like it's like the sniveling conservatives who are like, please don't hit me. I'm please don't call me racist. I'm not racist. Or like, you remember this happened a few months ago. There was some, I think it was on the Berkeley campus. Someone from Turning Point USA had some kiosk going, and some leftist came up and started screaming and tearing it apart and beating up the dude. And the dude just he was basically, why are you doing this? And not fighting back and just clamming up. Now, I'm not advocating you go out and hit people because first, that's against YouTube's terms of service. And we obey the law here on the Bechtloff Saturday Night Livestream. But number two, if that kid had hit back, he would have, he'd be the one to get the book thrown at him because it's Berkeley. But at the same time, people see that image and they see the right, the masculine right, represented as someone who just like cowers and is terrified of everything, and they see the left as someone who's actually masculine and willing to defend themselves. That's what Davis is doing here. He's like, please apologize to me. He's the equivalent of that. He's the equivalent of that kid from Turning Point USA getting the shit kicked out of him while sitting there doing nothing and pleading for mercy. It's not a good look, ever.
I don't know. I'm just gonna say I could see myself doing that, like as a just to make fun of them, because like you could argue something like V for Vendetta or Watchmen or basically anything Alan Moore's ever done is like supposed to make like right wing stuff look really scary, but it has the exact opposite effect.
But
like,
yeah, but like I said, he's tweeting at these people like he's going to be buddies. Okay. Like, imagine if you now Alan Moore is too much of a hipster to be on social media, from what I understand. But imagine if I was like, Alan Moore's book, The Watchmen, really proves this right wing point that he doesn't believe, right? Alan Moore, you know, tweeting at him, it's like, go fuck yourself. I'm be like, why are you being mean to me? Like, it's just a level of autism. It's just like this man can't go a week, it seems, without every time he gets noticed outside of his circle, people tell him to fuck off. And it just makes me laugh so much because he has no fucking social skills. He has no he doesn't understand why any of this is happening to him. And it's so fucking funny to me. He really doesn't get why the extra credits people were acting like gammas to him or whatever he's saying to himself.
By the way, I did a just self-plug. I did a video on the tragedy of the commons a while back, and I'm sure it's better on that topic than extra credits.
Oh, the guy knocking over the Turning Point stuff is wearing high heels.
Of course. Of fucking course.
I wish he'd just suck it up and come back to YouTube and just apologize.
Well, that's the problem. When you got a voluminous ego in the way, it kind of makes it difficult to do things like that.
Yeah, just pull your head out of it. Well, I joked last night. I'm not even joked. I just said last night, I'm like, what? Well, what keeps Luke? Is that you?
What is?
Who's that? That's just noise. Brow, brow, brow. Maybe that's my headphones. I don't know. I guess nobody else heard that.
I heard it. It was a really loud hiss.
I heard it.
All right. Well, yeah. What was that? Don't. That was terrible.
Luke is splitting time between doing the images and running a ham radio station.
Yeah. Whatever that was. Let's not have that happen again.
Beep 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 beep.
Anyways, what the hell was I saying? Fuck if I remember. Like I was saying last night, I'm like, you know, why did these things keep happening to you, Davis? Why did the extra credit guys just make a fool of you last night? Why did Porcelain and Easy Peasy make a fool of you a couple of weeks ago? Why did I make a fool of you for months on end? Why did several people before make a fucking fool of you? I don't know. Maybe the good Lord's trying to teach you a lesson. You know, maybe you need to just fucking learn it. All right. Maybe that lesson is a little bit of fucking humility.
Well, just take the L like a man and just move on.
Mm. All right, so we're gonna move on to some other topics, but real quick, y'all ready for there it is again.
Luke, the apocalypse hasn't happened yet. You don't need to operate the ham radio station just yet.
Both of my mics are muted. Both of my mics are muted. It's not coming through.
I know. I'm just kind of busting your balls.
What is that? Oh, it drives me nuts. Okay, so anyways, here's a very special article for Pride Month. Are we all ready for this article? This is off of thesun.co.uk, and the article is entitled "A Mum, fucking British, a mum and her lesbian lover tore off her 9-year-old son's penis before beheading him because he reminded her of her dad." Happy Pride Month, everybody. Mum Rosanna Canedo, 27, and Keisla Pesalo, 28, of Brazil, stabbed the boy over a dozen times and removed all the skin from his face before butchering his body. The pair were said to have even used a knife to try to gouge out the boy's eyeballs to prevent possible recognition. They bodged a bid to burn some of him on a barbecue, so stuffed his remains in a suitcase dumped in a sewer, police said. Other parts were found in 2 backpacks at their home in Brazil. The lovers said they are said to have confessed confessed all to horrified cops. Takes a lot to horrify some policemen. Horrified cops, and I'm not going to bother trying to pronounce these fucking capital names. About 20 miles from capital Brazil. In a gory twist, they are also accused of tearing off the son's penis a year ago. Jesus, they let him live like that? During horrifying homemade surgery. The 2 women are said to have told investigators they used rudimentary tools because Ron wanted to become a girl. Local reports say after removing his penis, the women said they sewed in an improvised version of female organs into the mutilated area. Jesus.
Whoa, what the hell is an improvised vagina? Did they like buy a flashlight or something?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to know the answer to that.
That
question.
would be an IVD, an improvised vaginal device, I guess. I'd rather have the IED, to be honest.
Oh, jeez. I don't even think I want to read the rest of this. Holy shit.
I'm actually feeling a bit nauseous.
Okay, so there you go, guys. Happy Pride Month. Happy fucking Pride Month.
Look how calm these 2 are in the police truck.
I'm also amazed that their ages are 27 and 28. Because I'd have guessed a good 20 years older than that.
We'll see if Bolsonaro does anything. We can hope.
Good Lord. Yeah, you talk about a time when like the police ought to just maybe look the other way and let some vigilante justice take its course. In Minecraft, of course. Because I don't advocate anything illegal on this show. So there you go, guys. Happy Pride Month. Let's move on. Because even I can't hang with this story. Good Lord. What in God's name is that? It ain't even Luke. Luke's muted. That is driving me nuts.
It might just be YouTube fucking it up.
Dude, guys, it's the Jews on YouTube throttling me. Fucking good old Owen Benjamin.
Yeah,
I'm trying to run OBS in my shed on my mobile hotspot, but clearly this is all fucking up because the fucking Jews at YouTube don't want you to know about the flat Earth.
Why does he record out in like the woods?
He records out in his shed because I'm pretty sure the wife is tired of hearing him scream nonsense in the house.
I just feel like the audio quality would be shit out there.
It's his bear shed, because I'm Big Bear, and that's totally not a gay name.
That's what he calls himself?
Yes.
Are you serious?
I'm not shitting you.
I admit, I just watched him for the first time today, and my first thought was this man is severely mentally ill.
Oh,
and I don't like to say that, but like, just I don't know.
It's not logos. They don't have the logos, so they're screwing with me. They try. The guy from Revenge of the Sith tried to murder my family. Oh, did you? Okay, so if y'all didn't catch that, by the way, some guy went on YouTube and claimed he was going to drive to Owen Benjamin's house. And then Owen Benjamin claimed, even though this guy had no affiliation with the podcast Revenge of the Sith, but the Revenge of the Sith guys had been shitting on him and laughing at him. Merce from Revenge of the Sith is trying to kill my family. The guy's fucking insane. The guy is fucking insane.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. Yeah, like I want to, I'm willing to give Owen Benjamin a shot because, like, you know, Shreya LaBeouf mentioned him on my last stream and like kind of defended him. And now he might have some good things to say, but again, that's not a good look to like accuse people, make wild accusations like that.
Want to know who's the most offended by the word cunt? Cunts.
Okay, that's kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie there. Unironically agreeing with Owen Benjamin there, but yeah, the guy's fucking bad shit, man.
To me, like the most concerning thing that he's done was like putting pictures, filming his kid, putting that online. That is not no. You never do that. Do not publicize your kids' shit. Do not publish pictures of them. Do not put video of them online without their consent. Which, as like his kid is like 2 or something, he can't give that consent. Okay, that was definitely Luke. I saw the second instance there. Unmute quickly, and then noise came from it.
I don't know what that is.
But whatever. Right. But going back to what I was saying about Owen Benjamin again, like especially given like he claims he's getting all these death threats and stuff like that. It's irresponsible as hell to publicize your kid like that, like he's doing. Don't do that,
dude. The guy's nuts. Look, I've gotten shit from a couple of people because I've been really hard on Owen Benjamin. I've been really hard on Vox Day because Vox Day's been acting like a huge faggot lately. But I mean, I'm not backing down on that. Vox Day has been acting like a huge faggot, and him getting called Teddy Spaghetti and the fact that really pisses him off is funny as hell. All right, and Owen Benjamin is clearly fucking insane. All right.
Also, another thing too,
and those two as business partners is going to collapse because Vox's ego you could almost wedge into the Grand fucking Canyon, and Owen Benjamin is insane, so they're gonna clash. They're gonna come to a blows, especially when this fucking unauthorized TV, the intellectual outlaws of the web, proceeds to make them no fucking money. And Owen Benjamin's gonna be like, "Where's the money, Vox?" and dunking his head in the toilet like the Big Lebowski. Owen's gonna fly all the way to Italy. Where's the money, Vox?
Which will work out worse, that or will that work out worse than the Sarkeesian effect, though? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I don't know. It's basically the same thing. It's fucking a lunatic and a grifter are teaming up to do something neither one of them knows how to do.
I mean, I want to defend Vox partially because he has his track record of building successful businesses like Castalia House, you know, Alt Hero, whatever it was. But the guy is so cringy and so good. And everything to do with the feeding the trolls thing. Like, if the dude just like completely ignored the Teddy Spaghetti stuff, if Owen Benjamin, if someone is like seriously threatening you, you don't publicize it like they did. That's what like fucking like Anita Sarkeesian did. Like, you obviously report someone who's threatening you in that manner to the authorities, but you don't go online and be like, "Oh, this is happening. They're calling me today's spaghetti," because that's gonna encourage people to make fun of you more. It's going to encourage more copycats of people coming after you physically.
If he had any sense of humor about him, he would have just fucking embraced it. It's not like it's that mean of a nickname. The way like Jordan Peterson embraced like the lobster shit and stuff like that. Like, yeah, sure, I'm the lobster.
Yeah, I mean,
just have a sense of humor about yourself.
Yeah, like 3 years ago, I got partially doxxed by Antifa. They got my phone number. They didn't get my address. But they also doxed that, and they also doxed my parents. Fortunately, nothing happened because, like, my parents live in an all-white area, and I'll leave the other part out of it. But I didn't go all over the internet and be like, "Oh, God, no, Antifa doxed me. What am I going to do?" Because that would have just encouraged them. It would have just spread the knowledge of what they'd done far and wide. No, I just went to the proper authorities and dealt with it that way.
And the other thing is, like, look, Vox has done a lot of good out there. I'm not disputing that. I've followed the guy's writing since 2003. On a lot of levels, I like the guy. I think Summa Helvetica is a fantastic fantasy novel. SJW's Always Lie is a great book. His alt hero stuff has been pretty good.
I thought Conservative was really good.
Yeah, even that's a good example. His comic company is always going to be held back by the fact that he called it alt hero. That's a fucking terrible name. and it ties it specifically to a political movement, one that has become, whose name has become fucking mud now. It was not a good idea, but he can't be talked out of bad ideas. He can never be fucking wrong.
Couldn't he just change the name?
Probably, but it's always been going to be tainted with that. And it's just an ego about him that constantly Vox has done good things. He could have done great things if he would have just pulled his head out of his ass. Somebody is asking if that's a dog snoring in the background in the chat. Yes, it is. All right, so let's see. We're going to talk about the logos a little bit more, but first, let's talk about some FinDom nationalism, shall we? All y'all pay piggies that been sending to Lauren Southern, just know that she's been fucking laughing at you the whole time. So this story broke. Lauren's, by the way, retired at the tender age of fucking 27 here. Has fucking retired.
So, Bechtloff, are you going to confess that you sent her money on the condition that she dress up like Misty and pretend to be your trainer?
Well, I mean, that'd be money well spent.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be far less degenerate than the people that send her fucking money and think they're saving the West. Because at least I'm not kidding myself. At least I know I'm just getting some thought to get my rocks off. All right?
Trigger the libs.
No, seriously. Like, I've been shitting on Lauren Southern for a long time. All right. Like, I will admit I bought her book. I bought her stupid fucking book because it was shitting on boomers. I thought, hey, I love shitting on boomers. And in the mail comes this $10 fucking pamphlet. This book was around $10, I think. And it was less than 90 pages. And this was supposed to be her big political book. It was a fucking joke. All right. And she didn't even write it. She sucked some dicks to have other guys write it for her, allegedly.
Wait, hold on. Like, does she have a navel piercing in that photo?
She does, and just a touch of a muffin top there.
Actually, now that I think about it, like all the publicity photos of her online, like most of them conspicuously cut off like just below her breasts. Now we know why.
I mean, don't get me wrong, she's not a bad looking woman and all. It's just even now, but I mean,
no, she's also had extensive plastic surgery. Like you can see in some photos, she has a cleft chin.
Guys,
I see there, right there, in the publicity photo for the book, she has a cleft chin.
Like, sorry about that. Bang my desk there. If you honestly were sending this woman money because you thought you were saving the fucking West, you're an idiot. You're a fucking idiot. Every one of you that was donating to her Patreon back when she had that and just chucking money at this fucking thought. Oh, I'm saving the West. No, okay. You just wanted to pull your pud to her. All right. But unlike actual pay piggies, you deluded yourself into thinking you were doing some grand thing for the white race and the West and Christendom and all this other bullshit. I'm making a difference. No, you're sending money to a fucking thought. And it turned out that thought was fucking laughing at you, was fucking working with the leftists. She knew those two homos working for Tommy Robertson were stealing money from him and doxing his location to Hope Not Hate, which is basically British Antifa.
No, right? It is British Antifa. They've gone after me, actually.
And guess what? She knew that shit, and she was laughing about it. She was fucking laughing about it.
And she literally said to them, like, I wouldn't do it, but I'm not your mother. Like, if someone is talking to Antifa in your group, like, you cut contact with them immediately, and you warn others, because that's fucking dangerous, okay? They're literally... She was metaphorically sleeping with the enemy. And she also met with Hope Not Hate herself. That was mentioned in the Milo article. She claimed she did it for a laugh, but like that's pretty fucking weird. Oh, let's go meet with our people who want to get us deplatformed, banned, and in the UK, since this is the UK we're talking about, arrested for hate speech. Let's go meet with them for a laugh. That's good. That's going to be fun. Let's go hang out with Nick Lolas, a guy who wants to get every right-winger thrown in prison Burlath. Well, that's awesome.
Oh, by the way, this story blew up recently because Milo was talking about it. Somebody else broke it a while ago. I don't know who I can't remember.
It was Mark Collette,
but nobody was really paying attention to it.
Nobody pays attention to Mark Collette because he's MI5. He's a British vet.
So, but Milo broke it in a big way here. I shouldn't say broke it. He blew it up in a big way. That said, though, let's not fucking act like Milo isn't guilty of basically everything. Lauren is, all right?
Well, yeah, basically.
Milo is a grifter who's stolen money from people, who's been using this whole fucking just to, like, you know, we all talk a lot of shit about conservatism Inc. But let's not act like alt-right Inc. or dissident right Inc. or alt-light Inc. or whatever isn't just as fucking money grubbing. And you know the shocking thing about it to me is it's not like these people were just skimming a little off the top. You know what I mean? It's not like they were just kind of being a little careless with the money. No, they're just hand over foot, just pocketing the fucking money. Just being so stupid and careless. Milo just not paying any of his writers, taking all that fucking white privilege college fund, and it all went right up his fucking nose, allegedly.
It is worth pointing out that Milo claims in the article some of the more recent stories about him being broke are not true, but that could just be cope. I mean, the dude is selling his fucking furniture on eBay, for crying out loud.
What?
Oh yeah, the throne he used, the little makeshift throne he used when he was doing the Milo show that he sat in on the video broadcast. He sold that on eBay for like $1,000. Yeah, and Bechtloff is totally right. Actually, there's a great tweet from a guy by the name of Ben Sixsmith about this. He says, Milo Yiannopoulos has written an article about some flamboyantly gay far-right blokes running off of other people's money to fund their lavish lifestyles. And on this subject, I defer to the expert.
Yeah, no shit. Like, and again, look, I'm not saying it's okay to be embezzling money. What I'm saying is I find myself shocked at how stupid they were about it. Like, did you honestly think you were going to be able to get away with this? Like, did you honestly think you could get away with this for any length of time? Again, we are talking about, you know,
we're talking about gay people here, okay? People who think it's a good idea to repeatedly stick another man's dick up your ass. They're not exactly known for their future time orientation.
I'm just, like I said, I'm shocked at it. And you know, again, it's not like, you know, well, maybe I skimmed a little off the top, okay? Like, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but like, I kind of just expect that happens a lot. But no, these people were just hand over foot, just raking all this money in. And
well, there's the fact that they get money to begin with. Okay, there are plenty of good people in the right wing who aren't getting that level of money. Okay, Nick Fuentes is someone who could use that level of money. He's a good guy, does good work. Guys like the Irony Bros, Beards and Sean, they do great work on exposing the degeneracy on the alt-right. They could use that money. They're not getting it. There are plenty of, you know, I'm not getting that level of money. I'm not going to put myself in the league as those guys, but I think I do pretty good work, and I don't have any skeletons in my closet. Here's why they're all, but Milo's a fucking fruit. He gets all this donor money. He was getting floated by Breitbart and Mercer. Lauren Southern was getting funded by some sugar daddy to do these documentaries. Kaylin Robertson was able to swindle money out of, you know, Ezra Levant, Alex Jones, all these people. There's a reason for this. Part of it is like, yeah, if you have people with their skeletons in their closet, you can easily control them. You know, you dangle a bit of money in Milo's face, and he'll dance whatever tune you want him to dance. There's more, but I'm going to be going into this in my show tomorrow. There's a concept I've talked about on a neo-reactionary concept I've talked about before called bio-Leninism. Leninism, you know, it's formulated by Vladimir Lenin in the early days of the Soviet Union, was basically, if you want to ensure ultimate loyalty in your new political system, you promote people in it who would be utterly destitute without that system. In the case of the Soviet Union, that was why they promoted everyone into the Soviet system, at least initially, except for ethnic Russians. Georgians, Jews, Ukrainians, Armenians, Tajiks, and from a class perspective, also like peasants and stuff. Those are people who all basically had nothing under the Russian Empire. And because of that, they would be utterly loyal to the Soviets because the Soviet Union gave them everything. Bio-Leninism is basically the operating principle of the modern left, in which you have women being promoted, gays being promoted, trans being promoted, all this stuff, and that's because gays and like gays, for example, in a more equitable market, gays would not be anywhere near as prosperous, as important as they are now. They die much younger. They have much higher rates of disease, much higher rates of mental illness. So the system promotes them because the gays on a certain level know they would have nothing if it weren't for the system promoting them. So they're going to be loyal to liberals and they're going to be loyal to the left. Women, middle-aged women in government bureaucracies, same deal. The dissident right operates on the exact same principles. It promotes people who are incompetent, people who basically would have nothing if it wasn't for dissident right money. Where would Milo be if it hadn't been for the Mercers and Breitbart funding his lifestyle? He'd just be another unknown dying AIDS patient. Okay, where would Lauren Southern be without her donors, without Rebel Media? She'd just be another Instagram thought. She'd still be stuck doing cosplay at conventions. The dissident right offers these defective people with skeletons in their closets and defective personalities money and prestige because that guarantees absolute loyalty. And we can see this in the fact that Kaylin Robertson, Lauren Southern, and the other dude, the female, the male trans, they got away with all this shit for years, and no one called them on it until now.
Well, people have called them on it, and nobody wants to hear it. What was the girl that had the colostomy bag? She was kind of cute, but I can't. Margaret something. Remember, she was kind of like an up and coming writer and all. And when she was one of the first people to blow the whistle on Milo, she got ostracized. She got fucking cast out.
Yeah, Margaret McLennan. Yeah, that's the thing.
She was right.
That's the thing. They don't want to break the omerta, the little code of silence they have among these groups. And that's the problem. Well, like I said, and you look at someone like Milo, you look at someone like Lauren Southern, or hell, look at some of the figures who haven't been exposed. Look at someone like Mike Cernovich and all the weird, skeletons in his closet. The chemically salty taste of the tranny's penis. That dude gets promoted because, again, all the weirdness. Will Chamberlain, the guy who's running Human Events. Ashley St. Clair, she's another grifting thought who got exposed recently by Nick Fuentes and the Irony Bros. At age 14, 15, she was running a Twitter account called Sex Laptop and selling nudes of herself to fucking dudes, which is she could and should go to prison for that. These people find themselves in the ranks of the conservatives because they're easily controllable and their loyalty can be bought because Ashley St. Clair, Will Chamberlain, Mike Cernovich, Milo, Lauren Southern, they know that if it wasn't for the donor money promoting them into Conservatism Inc., they would have nothing. They'd be nothing.
Well, shit, I should promote myself. I've gotten down to some freaky shit in my past. Who wants to give me money to
Guys, if any of you are out there and you want someone to sell out for money, you know where to reach me.
Yeah, I've said, look, I'm not gonna come cheap, but I've got my price. I'm not made of stone.
I want to put you in the White House, Senator.
Yeah, right. And exactly how many skeletons do I have in my closet?
But here's another thing. Rad mentions in the chat that Milo approached 4 of the men who helped Lauren. One of these men were Alan Bokhari. Do you know who the other 3 were? No, that's Alan Bokhari is not one of the 4. Milo refers to 4 prominent men in the distant right that Lauren Southern slept with in order to promote herself. Alan Bokhari is not married. Yeah, and I'm not sure the other 4 are, but I can guarantee you one of them almost certainly is Stefan Molyneux.
Is it too much to ask to get some conservative talking heads that actually act like conservatives? I guess that's just too much to ask for.
I mean, note that she did her final goodbye interview with Stefan Molyneux, and I'm sure he's sweating bullets right now because she probably got so much blackmail, so much compromise on him during their little, their little lovey-dovey sessions.
I will say I have a little bit of respect for the guys who actually had sex with her, as opposed to like the
pay piggies.
Yeah, I have a little more respect for them.
Someone joked that I could have gotten to sleep with Lauren Southern if I'd offered to help her with her writing. That'd be nice, I guess.
Apparently, she was offered Hummers for fucking ghostwriting. That's the rumor going around, allegedly.
Well, it was confirmed in the case of Alan Bakari, and apparently she had gamed him enough that he was heartbroken over her for a year.
So
I like Alan Bakari. He's one of the good guys. Alan Bakari at Breitbart.
Apparently, Lauren sucks a mean dick. So there you go.
Well, it's like how Richard Spencer is still fascinated.
Still fascinated by who?
Like nearly 2 years after they had their little tryst at Charlottesville, to the point where his girlfriend has to like ward her off on social media to keep the two of them from getting back together.
Boy, talk about Charlottesville. That thing just keeps getting like what happened there is not good. Don't get me wrong, but it keeps. The more it gets talked about, the more exaggerated it gets. I mean, you'd think that it was nothing but Klansmen just I don't know, just an all-out attacking somebody or something, or lynching somebody the way that some people talk about Charlottesville nowadays. Again, not good, but gosh, is it getting exaggerated.
I have to say, I suddenly, I don't want to say respect, but it's like I suddenly understand why fucking Stefan had Lauren Southern on all the time. I thought he was just doing it because he figured she'd bring in the views or something. But no, apparently he was giving her the old what for there. And
wait. I just realized number. I forgot number two. Number two on the list of married men that what's her face slept with. Ezra Levant, almost certainly. Like he probably treated Rebel Media like Harvey Weinstein treated the Weinstein Group. Like he had.
Well, in that case, maybe she just had to watch him jack off into a potted plant.
Yeah, but I'm sure he had he got his hooks into Faith Goldie. He got his hooks into Laura Loomer.
I would love to get somebody to call in to tell me, like somebody who used to donate to her Patreon or something. Like, yeah, explain to me what the fuck you were thinking there. Like, yeah, pay pigs rise up.
They were triggering the libs.
Yeah, own the libs. But yeah, that's well. I'll find somebody that used to donate to her Patreon, and we'll call that episode "Pay Pigs Rise Up."
Look, she's a great way of reaching the normies. Okay, she's a great starting point for them.
She doesn't even fulfill that, because Atlanta Locktef at Red Ice did a good video deconstructing Southern's recent documentary Borderless, pointing out basically it takes a kind of a spineless centrist position on everything. Like she's kind of like, oh, there's no clear story here, and I feel bad for the refugees because they're just, they need help too, and it's utterly no. It's not just their the whole idea of the migrant crisis being motivated by just the war in Syria or just poverty is complete dog shit. It's an invasion, straight up, of people who just want to leech off of European welfare systems.
Yeah, well, I'm beginning to think she's kind of welcome in that invasion. I mean, we know for a fact she'd like a little curry in her diet, and there's all sorts of rumors about her being on the soul pole. So who knows? Maybe migrants are welcome into her fucking bedroom. Allegedly, in Minecraft.
That was mentioned by Milo in the article. He theorizes the reason. Well, it's obvious the reason she suddenly retired was because she knew this was going to come out. But he claims that she either got married to a sugar daddy, like a 50-year-old sugar daddy that she doesn't want to be seen in public with, or she got knocked up by some black security guard.
Oh, please be the latter. That's so fucking funny.
Can we get an esoteric person to point out the fact that these guns are missing the ammo in them? That they're completely harmless. I feel like this. If we're gonna have somebody mention the fact that Bechtloff's gun's uncocked, I think we'd have to mention that with this picture as well.
Yeah, can I get a lisping Canadian bisexual to hop in here and explain to us?
You reminds me of the scene at the end of True Grit where Maddie's confronting Cheney in the stream, and she's like threatening to shoot him, and he's like, Well, you better cock your piece then, all the way back.
Oh, jeez.
Magazine.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Not clips.
Yeah. Jeez. I can't work. And just imagine it. So you fucking like look, we all make to make fun of the boomers and the fucking Viagra Republicans watching Fox News with their latest empty skirt. Meanwhile, the more woke alt-right, the more woke Zoomers, they're using their parents' credit card to send fucking money to Lauren Southern while she's getting railed by Tyrone and laughing at you. Just good Lord. Oh,
it kind of reminds me when Trudeau started getting Me Too'd. I actually respected him more.
Dashing Rogue sends a $2 super chat. Says, "Can I get on? I'll bring you on in a little bit. I'll bring you on as caller. It's fine." Actually, you know what? It's fine. Send him a link. Matt, you said he messaged you. Go ahead, send him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because I can be bought. $2 to hop in. Sure, why not?
You're certainly cheaper than Lauren Southern.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to blow me to come onto my show. Although it certainly doesn't hurt. Well, let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about the Legos, shall we? Let's talk about the Mega Blocks.
Logos rise up.
Oh, hey, Legos and Mega Blocks, not the same thing.
Mr. Logos rising.
Believe in the duplex. All right, so I've been really critical of all this Logos rising stuff, primarily because, in my opinion, this is, and it's very, very common with the tradcasts, but it's not just them. In my opinion, this is little more than yet another way to make Christ a sort of a secondary or tertiary figure in Christianity. Luke had a brilliant observation where he said it's amazing how they managed to take a label, a title for Christ and use it to, distract from Christ. Because there's a number of people, I don't necessarily know if E. Michael Jones means it this way, but there's a number of people who have taken Logos, which, yes, Christ said he was the Logos, he was the Word, he was the law, he was the logic. But they take it as the abstract concept and focus on it merely as the abstract concept rather than focus on the person of Christ. And that is not genuine Christianity. And that's a big problem I have with that. And frankly, it's a problem I have with Catholics in general, because it seems like they want to talk about everything but Christ. They want to pray to the saints. They want to focus on Mary as if she was some sort of demigoddess. They want to do all, talk about the church, talk about tradition, the saints, Mary, what have you, anything but actual Christ. And yeah, there's the Logos Rising store. It's coming up, by the way, guys. LogosRisingStore.com coming soon. Can you imagine wearing that shirt in public?
So the whole thing is
stop for a second. Everybody, I want you to look at this ridiculous fucking thing Luke came up and imagine yourself wearing that shirt in public. Like, I would expect an atheist trying to take the piss out of Christianity to wear that.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of trying to defend the whole Logos Rising thing the other day, because I'm looking at it from the perspective, like, number one, there are good things about it. I think it's a good thing that the dissident right is moving on from Wignat race idolatry, which people like E. Michael Jones have pushed them towards. Number two, I think what I've seen of E. Michael Jones, I like. My opinion of him is, like, if you have a scale of like -5, which represents absolute hate, and +5, which is absolute love, my opinion of E. Michael Jones is a 1. Based on what, like, I've read a little bit of Libido Dominandi, and I've seen some of his appearances on streams. And I like a lot of his ideas. I like his delivery. He's a guy who gets more right than he does wrong. And number 3, I'm trying to look on the positive side here. Like, it's really easy to get. I've been accused of being black pill and such. I don't, and that there isn't a whole lot to get happy about. But I would like to caution people about getting into that sort of like Wignat attitude where you just assume everything is going to fall apart and almost want it, Like, and I'm referring to like how they go on now about like we knew Trump was going to fail in the realm of politics. He wasn't going to do anything. There's no political solution. When we all know for a fact, people like Richard Spencer never wanted Trump to succeed in the first place, as evidenced by the fact that they dumped him overboard at the first time he did something they didn't like. So that was my perspective on the Logos Rising thing. And then today, George Bruno of the 21 Convention, the biggest collection of scammers and hucksters in this part of the internet, I see he's added Logos to his name on Twitter. And then I suddenly see, yeah, it's done. Logos Rising, rest in peace. February 2019 to June 2019.
If only it were that simple.
Well, you had this you on Discord. You were mentioning you were kind of comparing them to the evangelicals and all, but I've often compared the dissident right to the religious right because when the religious right first came into power back in the late 70s into the early 80s, they were a major force getting Reagan elected. Not the only force, but a major force. And, Daddy Reagan didn't give them everything they wanted, so they regrouped and they started focusing on local politics. And the religious right became a major political force in this country for well over 30 years. They only collapsed in 2008, basically, when the neocons that they had married collapsed. But they were a major force to be reckoned with. They were in national American politics, you had to court or deal with the religious right in some manner. Whereas, the alt-right, they started off on a similar thing. They were a major force in getting Trump elected. Not the only force, not by a long shot, but they were a major party. And then Daddy Trump didn't give them everything they wanted, and they imploded. They absolutely imploded. For all the faults of the evangelicals, all the cringiness, and look, I shit on the evangelicals something fierce, even though I'm mostly an evangelical myself. I've called out a lot of them, and I'm going to call out another one, Kenneth Copeland, later today in this show. But I've called out a lot of them, and I've lost friendships, real life friendships over it. I was one of the earliest guys calling out James McDonald. But that said, though, you want to compare the track record of these various dissident right offshoots, any of them, to the religious right, and it's no comparison.
Well, the defense I would have put up if I hadn't seen this George Bruno nonsense was that, like, the whole Logos Rising thing just got started. It's a shame that it's going to be dead before the end of the year, but I was looking at the perspective of, comparing this to, like, the religious right. The religious right, as we know it, is not coming back.
Well,
it's done. It was permanent.
Nor should it. Don't get me wrong.
Through its attachment with President Bush, it hasn't come back with Trump. And in terms of the increasing, am I still here?
You're still here.
There was a life pulse with Trump.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, you're still here, Matt.
I thought I cut out there for a minute. Oh, yeah. Okay. My connection died out for a second. My criticism of this is like I don't see the religious right evangelicalism coming back, and I see it having a major problem in the next decade. And the I question, the Israel question. Well, evangelicals have ruined their credibility from my estimation by throwing in so hard with Israel.
Well, do you know what that is?
I'm going to fight you on that a little bit because I think, and I've noticed this for over a decade now, there's a major disconnect between what represents evangelicals on the national stage and let's use evangelicals as just a sort of broad catch-all for conservative Protestantism. But what represented at the at sort of the more grassroots level. I don't think at the grassroots level things are nearly as certainly not as blindly pro-Israel as your John Hagees, are. I think that's what represents evangelicals, but that's not really where they are. Not as much anymore.
Well, do you know Do you know why the evangelicals like Israel and why they keep pushing for Israel? It's not because they like the Jews or Israel.
Eschatology.
I don't know what that is. Can you explain?
The study of the end times, Revelation, the end of time history.
Yeah, essentially, they're using Israel just as much as Israel is using us, and the neocons and all of the it's a voting block thing. You don't want to piss off your voting block. You want to keep giving the voting block what they want, and they want eschatology. They want the end of the times. They're a death cult, essentially. It's kind of fucked up, but it's true.
There's definitely that segment of it, but again, among some of the younger ones, among the more grassroots ones, they're less concerned about waiting for the end, waiting for the end times, and more concerned about living their lives.
Well, I mean, okay, not everybody agrees on the same eschatology. It's a difficult subject. The people who are predominantly doing this was really popular with the Left Behind books and everything. It's what's known as premillennial premillennial pre-trib view of the book of Revelation. So they think that the tribulation is going to be a literal 7-year period where the Antichrist comes. He's a literal figure. And some people believe in a rapture. That's where you get the pre-trib. They're raptured before the tribulation happens. Or some people believe in post-trib, so they're raptured after the tribulation happens. And then the reason why it's called premillennial is because after the return of Christ, there is a 1,000-year period where Christ reigns, and so it's taking a particular interpretation of the book of Revelation. There are other interpretations. There is a preterist view where they believe that most of the book of Revelation has already occurred, that the things that are speaking in here are more consistent with the destruction of Israel rather than the end times. There's an idealist view, which is kind of like the book of Revelation is describing judgment and it's describing different points throughout time. So you've got the catechism, what happened to the world when God cursed it. You've got the, before Christ, then you've got after Christ and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different views, and those are becoming more widely accepted with, the advent of the internet and there's communication and stuff. But, because premillennial was a very popular theory within the SBC, there was a lot of stuff going on with TVs that became very widespread and became synonymous with the evangelicals, and that's why there's such a huge connection with Israel. And so many people think, and of course the whole idea as well of, they're God's chosen people and this kind of stuff. Although even that now is sort of being challenged more. The idea that, again, is, Israel, the nation Israel, God's chosen people, or is it those who believe in Jesus Christ? Like for me, the true Israel are those who believe in Christ. I think that's consistent with what Paul says. So, for me, Israel, if it's, it's completely political. There's not a religious aspect there. In the sense that, the nation of Israel, in my opinion, is not God's chosen people. God's chosen people are those who believe in Christ, from my perspective.
Yes. One of the things I would add on to that is there is a difference, and this may be some basic bitch red pilling shit, but there's a difference between the nation and the state of Israel. So they have to. Again, you said a lot of stuff there, but people who think that the nation of Israel, the state that is the same as the nation talked about in Revelation and the Bible is not the same thing. They're talking about Shapiro and maybe a couple other Christians and stuff like that if they're talking about the nation.
Well, here's the thing. I kind of take the more, I guess, popularized view on Revelations.
Revelation. Sorry.
And
pet peeve.
Yeah. And that said, though, I've never understood the connection. Like, okay, if in my mind, it's always been, look, if God wants Israel to be there, then it's going to be there. I don't see why it's America's duty to, be to do God's work there. If he wants them there, they'll be there. Because I kind of take the stand that America's government should be for America's interests. And even if if Israel as a nation ceased to exist tomorrow, if they were pushed into the sea, that wouldn't disprove any of that claim, because look, Israel has come and gone as a nation several times before. That's sort of been the history of the nation of Israel. So if it goes again, so be it. I don't have any emotional attachment to it, and I'm quite sick of my government, of my nation being used as their personal fucking golem. And I say that as someone who who has pretty close. I'm somewhat agnostic on Revelation, because I don't know. I don't pretend to know enough. that said, though, I lean more towards that kind of popularized view.
Well,
but it doesn't mean I feel that view means I have to be the nation of Israel's bitch.
Well, the observation I have is that, like, yeah, it's obviously not all Protestants are like Israel obsessed. I mean, I'm a big fan of Pastor Stephen Anderson. I like a lot of his sermons. So it's not fair to, obviously it's not fair to tar them all the same brush. But the problem is the perception in the public of the eyes of the public.
Oh, certainly,
is that
because
you are,
the ones on TV are,
and that's the problem. Is that we're seeing? I believe in the next 10 years we're going to see a massive shift in the public's opinion of Israel. We already kind of are on the left anyway. That's how we got in people like Ilhan Omar in the Congress who rail against Israel because the left regards Israel now as a white supremacist colonial state. We already have it happening on the left. We're going to happen on the right. We arguably sort of almost had that happen in 2016.
No, it basically already has happened on the right. Look, let's just use the terms alt-left and alt-right for non-establishment left and right, respectively. The alt-left and the alt-right, neither one of them like Israel. The establishment right and left are all about Israel, but the non-establishment, both left and right, the AOCs and the Omar, whatever the hell her names is, they don't like Israel.
Well, this is all about money, guys. This is all about funding their political campaigns. Oh, you don't like this imaginary enemy? I'll take care of it for you for a fee. Donate to this shady fund. That's what it's all about. It's all about the money. They don't. Again, it's really fucked up. If the right cared about Israel, if they actually gave a shit about the nation, of the state, they would personally, find a place that is not political and donate to it. But they won't do that.
Well, the issue is that because in the public's mind, like evangelicalism, the religious right is so wedded to Israel. If Israel goes, like a great deal of this theology and evangelicalism is utterly discredited in the eyes of the public. Just I think that already, like I said, was starting to happen with the religious right going down 10 years ago when you had all these evangelical leaders, all these evangelical, religious right politicians being caught, with little boys or doing having gay sex or doing meth, etc. Like that was a big blow. Israel, I think, is going to be the final discrediting fact. Just like all the pedo scandals have really wounded the Catholic Church. It has, it has. But I think existentially, it would be a bigger problem for evangelicals because, you get all the theological debates, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, etc. That's like stuff for nerds. Okay, it really is. The average layman isn't super into the differences between the different sects. I don't think. They obviously know the differences. I mean, if you don't think your church is the best, why would you be the part of it? But the finer details of it are whatever. The Catholic Church has been seriously wounded and shares part of the blame for the decreasing religiosity in the United States. At least 40%, if not half. But the Catholic Church as an idea, I think, can outlast that simply because of the Catholic Church as an institution. But when you discredit theology, the theology of dispensationalism, which motivates a lot of evangelicalism, well, then you have a far more existential problem.
True, I guess, but I think there's a little bit of conflating to evangelicalism versus Protestantism. The two are not necessarily. I mean, again, there is some overlap, but I don't think you can completely equate the two. They can't be completely interchangeable terms at this point. They could have been, maybe closer to 40 years ago, but at this point, there's so many people who would classify themselves as evangelical that are not really Protestant in the slightest. They don't really get anything about the Protestant Reformation. They don't really care anything about those differences. That you can't really equate them. Again, I agree a lot with what you're saying here. I think some of the other issues, as somebody who is growing up and sort of has witnessed the collapse of evangelical culture, two of the big things that I see is that really what happened, in my opinion, with evangelical culture is that it became about either at best, it became just moralism. That's what they were doing, is they were just preaching moralism. It wasn't really the gospel or anything like that. I think you had mentioned it before, where it's what didn't work was, they were shouting Christ, Christ, Christ. They really weren't doing that, at least not in the sense of that, Jesus is your savior and the actual gospel. It was, don't do this. Jesus is watching you. Make sure that you've left room for Jesus. Moralism, essentially. That's at their best. At their worst, what it was pop psychology. You know, it was chicken noodle soup for the soul or whatever, that kind of stuff. That's what you were getting out of the pulpit, and you weren't getting really any kind of real biblical teaching. So you're getting this sort of very
life help,
lame duck psychology, from some pastors. Then you're just getting strict moralism from other pastors, and that leads to a lot of discrediting as well. So you have the veneer of Christianity, you have the veneer of righteousness and self-righteousness, but then people see all of that hypocrisy, and then that leads people to reject that and ultimately turn to nihilism, which is kind of what we saw happen.
I'll agree with that on Pastor Tom's part. The moralizing was a big reason I didn't, as I was looking into Christianity as a teenager, young adult, I saw all these people talking about, they talk about, oh, come to Jesus, your savior, all this other stuff, get your sins forgiven. And then you'd listen to them for 15 minutes and you'd hear nothing but a whole bunch of what now I'd call legalism. I didn't have the term, but I'm like, this doesn't jive with what you were telling me a second ago.
The Church of No Salvation.
They've sort of that's exactly what they were. A preacher I really love goes by the name of Steve Browning. He's one of the first guys I ever really encountered who actually, didn't want to shy away from that message of grace inherent in Christianity. Wasn't concerned that, people might abuse it or something like that. He just preached it. And that's why I that man was a major force in me coming to Christ, because it was one of the first times I actually saw it where, he's actually a little consistent about this.
Yeah, I'm coming at this again from an outsider's perspective. I went to a Catholic school and I got alienated from Catholicism pretty early on by a combination of the pedo scandals and just the fact that my school had been totally, converged by the left. Like, my school had an Amnesty International chapter. That's how left wing it was, and I became kind of right wing politically. I think in part as a revolt against that. But then this is around the same time, like 2006, the same time when we started having all these scandals among the religious right, and I saw the way they behaved, and I was like, I didn't want to be like them either. I didn't want to, if my choices were, I either go to the Catholic Church and I become like this limp-wristed, good little Jesuit social justice warrior whining about how no human being is illegal, or I see these dudes who are thumping about sin and stuff, and they're all getting caught with rent boys or smoking meth. I drifted away from that pretty quick. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person in that position. I've come back to it slowly over the past few years because A, I've recognized the importance of it. B, the entire world is going to hell, and theology, God makes the world makes a lot more sense when you look into it like that. I think my main problem and my part of my defense of the Logos Rising thing was I don't like the constant pointless shitting on tradition. There is a point, that a lot of trad Catholics make an idol out of tradition. You're right on that, Bechtloff. But tradition has value. If for no other reason, then it provides an example of what works, what doesn't work. Okay, there's a whole body of theology in all of the churches that is valuable, and I was looking for the perspective if the Logos Rising gets people to think about gets people to faith and gets them to think about faith a little more critically, I think that's a good thing. It's unfortunate that George Bruno and the Hucksters have discovered it.
Well, George Bruno, again, Luke, can you get a picture of George Bruno? And I believe it is that Mike Cernovich, because he's not a bad person. He's just networking.
Real quick, John Steele sends a $5 super chat. Says, "What does the Logos say about Israel?" Question. But again, on to Matt's point there about tradition, the reason I basically shit on tradition is twofold. Number one, there's an atheist argument against religion that religion is just a means to control people.
Well, Lagare.
That it's just a bunch of bullshit that we tell people to get them to behave, and when I see this heavy emphasis on tradition, on that sort of thing from the Catholic Church, Anti-Dem's a good example of this. I love Anti-Dem. I'm not trying to pick on him. Had him on the show numerous times. He's always welcome on here. I've had him in my home a couple of times. But half the time when he's defending the Catholic Church, he makes it sound like a really good scam that just really works out well and gets people to behave. Now, look, if I believe that that's what Christianity was, I might be inclined to push it onto other people, but that wouldn't do anything to make me personally believe it.
Relicare. Yeah, that's Latin. It means to tie, to bind, to hold back, to come back to.
That would make me want to push it on other people, but it wouldn't make me believe it myself. And that's the biggest point. Like, I had that perspective for a while that most religion was just some bullshit we told people to get them to behave, right? And I'm not going to. I might, if I'm especially dishonest, I might want to push that on other people to get them to fucking behave. But I'm not going to. It's going to do nothing to make me want to believe it. I came to Christianity because I believe it to be true. The idea that it's traditional or anything like that has nothing to do with it. And if anything, it almost discredits it to me to focus it too much on the tradition. And yes, we Protestants, we have tradition. We have, we have all that stuff. Tom did a great video where he talked about, the sola scriptura means that it's our supreme authority is scripture, not the only authority.
Well, it's the only infallible authority, not the only authority in its entirety. I mean,
Jesus.
so there is.
Yes, we do have tradition. We do have hierarchy. We do have all those other things.
Yes, and I mean, of course, again, what we would, the idea behind sola scriptura is that it is God breathed, that all scripture is breathed out by God. So when we're saying, the Bible says, we're saying God says, or again, Jesus says, since Jesus is God. Now you could talk about, is this, again, where we to say that Jesus says specifically. I mean, there's points where he's speaking in there, but that's why it's easier to say God said or the Bible said. But that's the idea, and that's why it's infallible. Is because we believed it's breathed out by God. It doesn't make any sense for it to be the Word of God and then to not be infallible, right? I mean, that's if you say that the Bible is the Word of God, then you're going to say the Bible errs. Then you have to say God errs. So I mean, if the Bible is in error, if it's not infallible, then it's either not the Word of God or God's not infallible.
I don't know, but
people.
What's up?
When you point out, like Bechtloff points out, like you think religion is just a way to get people to behave. Like it seems like you're kind of discounting the fact that religion does kind of do that. I mean, even if we take like the sola fide, you're saved through faith alone. I mean, and you've made this argument before. Like, if you love God, you're going to want to obey His commandments. So it does place constraints on your behavior. There are constraints that are good for you, like all this rebellion. Like, yeah, I'm gonna do drugs. I'm gonna have all the casual sex I want. It's a false freedom, obviously, because all it does is lead you down a bad path. But like, I think by downplaying that element of it, you're missing a large part of what draws people to it to begin with. Particularly now, with society enforcing all this ridiculous, be gay. I mean, we're in the middle of Pride Month for crying out loud. I'm not in the States. I'm not in the States, but I hear you have like gay propaganda being blared at you all day, every day. If you're in any city of size in the U.S. right now.
Well, let me just say this about Pride Month for a second. I have not heard a single lip about Pride Month from anybody on the left in real life. I've only heard about it online, okay? Now, yes, there's going to be a bunch of people, putting mayonnaise with fucking pride stickers and shit, and rainbows all over the place. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, I think it's being blown out of the water, and I really think that the right is exacerbating the issue. Okay,
I don't know about that, but I'd say at this point it's almost been reduced to just a marketing campaign. We put a rainbow stick. It's become the Christmas of the left. Whatever original meaning it had, it's just become commercialism.
In Toronto, every single business has a rainbow flag. Like every single one. They've in some parts
even
of the city,
Chick-fil-A
painted the streets rainbow colors. They put the pride flag above the Canadian flag at City Hall. It is a whole scale worship of it.
Well, look, I don't deny that becoming a Christian will make you a better person. But that can't be the focus of it, because then you go down this path of reducing it to this AA 12-step self-help BS.
Well, let me ask you this, Pastor Tom. What is antinomianism? Because there's a lot of this stuff to me sounds like we want to have Christ as Savior, but not as Lord. Because yeah.
And that's what antinomianism is. It's the idea of, again, being against the law. And that's why I was going to say this is one thing that I think the Lutherans articulate very well, which is that the Christian should have a balance and should hold in constant balance between the law and the gospel. The law is not a bad thing. The law is what the Bible tells you to do, right? So if, when you say love your Lord with all your heart, that's law. Love your neighbor as yourself, that's law. That's what you're supposed to do.
Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill, right? Yes. But again, in saying love the Lord your God and love your neighbor, that's summing up the law, right? That's what you're supposed to do. Now, the gospel is what has God done? What has Christ done? Both of those need to be held in balance. The law shows you why you need Christ because the law shows you where you fail. The law says love your neighbor, and none of us love our neighbor like we should. We're in need of a savior. That's where the gospel comes in, because when we fail to uphold the law, when we fail to keep the law, even though we know that it's good and we can try really, really hard, but we fail. And so we need Christ. And so when we believe in Christ, when we trust in him, we are saved, and the law is fulfilled for us by Christ. Now, because we don't have to worry about earning our salvation, we want to do what is good for our neighbor, not to earn our salvation, but because it's in keeping with the character of God, and because we do want to love our neighbor more. Again, because God has loved us, is what it says in 1 John, right? We love because God first loved us. Because God has loved us, we now love our neighbor, and so that means that we want to do things that are loving towards our neighbor and loving towards God. And so the law points us that direction. It tells us, okay, what's good, and again, Paul explains all of this in the book of Romans. He says, does this mean that we should, that because their grace is, goes beyond sin, that means that we should sin all the more so that way grace can extend? Well, absolutely not. How can we who have died to sin continue to persist in it? Again, are we, Paul says, does this mean that the law is bad? Well, absolutely not. And when he's saying absolutely, absolutely not, he's using the strongest negative that he can use in the Greek. That's the strongest no possible. That's why the King James translates it as God forbid, just to really indicate how strong of a no it is. So the law is good. That was, again, if you just get up there and you just say, well, believe in Jesus, and then it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how you act, it doesn't matter anything, that's not Christianity. Because you're not acting in the character of God. But likewise, if you say, well, to go to heaven, you have to do this, and 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 you have to believe in Jesus, that's not Christianity either.
Yes. Amen. Amen. First off, amen, Pastor Tom. One more question. What does religare mean? It's a Latin term. Do you know anything about this?
I'm more Greek and Hebrew, not really Latin all that well.
Same here, but Catholics require us to speak.
So you're actually a Bible scholar?
Me?
No, I was talking to Tom there.
What?
Yeah, I always find it very telling that the Catholic Church emphasizes a language not found in the Scripture.
They emphasize the history of the religion as well. So oftentimes that's spoken in Latin. But I oftentimes prefer the Septuagint over the Vulgate, even as a Catholic. So, but religare, if you look at the Latin term, it means religion. It's where we get the term regulation and religion. It means to tie, to bind, to hold back, to hold to come back to. So that's what this whole Logos Rising thing is. It's trying to hold you to a standard, oftentimes logic, reason, rationality, but through a metaphysical, religious lens. My issue is, instead of just saying Jesus, and just be honest with yourself and say fucking Jesus, these
I wouldn't say those two things together.
Well, I'm a sinner.
Just a joke. Just a joke.
Instead of holding people to account, and holding them to Christ, bring them to Christ, to bring them to reason. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about that in my podcast tomorrow, about why even as a Catholic, I will say, Luke is correct about this whole Logos shit. It takes Christ out of Christianity. You have Christianity without Christ, and I'll be honest, it's very, very. If we're talking about the end times, I would say that the church itself is going to be weaponized against Christ, and this is leading up to that, I think.
And that's my
That
issue
just
kind of with it
reminded me
too.
of-
I mean, why isn't Jesus good enough, right? Why do we have to sort of change it? We got to disguise it. Like, again, for me, I don't want to trick anybody into the kingdom of heaven. I want to be like, oh, see, surprise, you're a Christian now. Gotcha. No, I want them to know what they're doing. I want them to know what they believe. I mean, Jesus said this as well, right? He said, count the cost. If anyone wants to follow me, let him deny himself, pick up his cross, and come after me. I mean, he made it clear it's not going to be a good thing. He didn't try to deceive people or trick people. He didn't try to. I mean, yes, he does use other language sometimes. He's not always blunt. I'm not saying that we always have to be, completely obvious. I mean, again, that's why we can talk about the logos and we can talk about these other things. Christ does that, but he always gets it to who he actually is. And every time that he gets to this when he's talking, you can see it in any sermon or anytime he's speaking with someone, any conversation, he always gets to it being, really who he is and what he's here. At least it's what happens. That's the example that we see in Scripture. And so any movement that wants to talk about logos, but it wants to make it, natural law and order and sort of, the way things are, and it sort of, like you say, removes Christ from that. It's absent from Christianity.
Well, let me just say, add on to that. It's one thing to talk about how there is a natural order to the universe and a natural order to because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. But where we go wrong is we start trying to reject Christ. He lived the perfect life. He was sinless. How many people are talking about this? How many people? Again, you're going to have to tune in tomorrow.
Every Sunday, my church talk about it.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Tune in tomorrow to my podcast. I'm doing a little bit of shilling for myself. Digital Renegades. We're going to talk about the dangers of what happens when you take out Christ from the logos and you separate the two. We're going to talk.
Tom said something to me earlier where he said, this logos talk is possibly a good starting point, but it's a terrible place to just stay.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was trying to look at it from the perspective of they're not mutually exclusive. And I'm trying to be positive and look at the good things, and I think since it was E. Michael Jones who got all this started, at least in your specific case, Bechtloff, I think we were unfairly prejudiced against it because a certain bald bisexual Canadian.
Oh, I admitted I didn't know a tremendous amount about E. Michael Jones. I was just observing the retard circus surrounding him. I'm looking at we got older Rooney. We got Rouge, who is probably the best of this bunch I'm about to name, but still getting a bit cringy in my opinion. And then we got a good old Owen Benjamin, the moon don't reel, you stupid cum drain Jew. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, this is not the most ringing endorsement. Well, now look, he might be the Rick and Morty of trad Catholics, where he's fine, but the fan base is terrible. But
well, to be fair, Owen Benjamin is actually a Protestant, but I get what you're saying, but that is one of Jones's big faults. I'd say he's a whore. He'll go on anyone's show except Jay Dyer's apparently. Jay Dyer was saying that he wanted to debate.
That's because I think he knows. No, he's not going to go on someone's show to debate. He'll go on anyone's show. He's going to kiss his ass.
I might have him on later on. I might try to get him on. That'll be awesome.
He'd probably go on all of our shows if we asked him.
Well, I think it'd be cool to get him on here and debate Tom or something. That'd be fun, but he's not going to do that.
Do it.
He's not going to do that. If I got him on here and be like, oh, EMJ, come on here. We all want to kiss your ass. He'd be like, oh, well, sign me up. But if I'm like, come on here, we want you to debate this guy. He'd be like, tell me to go pound sand.
Well, maybe before Logos can rise, we have to have the record of the Logos Wars.
And he did say something really stupid where he was like, I'm not going to debate a Protestant until they show me where sola scriptura is in the Bible.
Do it.
I'm like, dude, that's so retarded.
I got
I'm not going to debate a Catholic until he shows me where the Pope is in the Bible.
That was a
Do
good
it.
report.
Oh,
like I said, I got copies of his books. I got Libido Davenandi recently. I got The Jewish Revolutionary Spirit. I got Baron Metal, which is probably going to take me the rest of my life to read because it's 1,200 freaking pages. I wanted to get the Slaughter of Cities, but I couldn't find that online. I'm gonna try and look at the guy's ideas objectively. I think he deserves a fair hearing, regardless if idiots latch on. I doubt the bald bisexual Canadian has actually read a word of anything he's done.
I'm not convinced he can read.
I'm going to be honest with you.
I mean,
I mean, Arini honestly is really acting Gamma. I mean, when I first saw him, when you were talking about how he didn't learn last night with the whole extra credits people, like I really honestly felt Gamma off of him. I really did. I legitimately felt like he even like made multiple posts. All the stuff that Vox Day claims Gammas do with a whole wall of fucking text trying to explain how you're wrong and they're right. He did that. He fucking did that. Now, granted, there's a certain level of how should you say it, character limit on Twitter, but I guarantee you give him a fucking inch, he'll take a mile.
Well, no, there was also an hour in between those two things, so it's not like he had to split one thought into two tweets. No, he tweeted once and it was mad he didn't get a response and tweeted some more. You should apologize like a bitch.
I really feel bad for the guy. I hope he gets his shit together. You just take the L, level up. Take a fucking L, have a redemption arc. For fuck's sake, we need people like him. We need, or the old Arini. I mean, for fuck's sake, you talk about like internet dark age and you want to be able to save all your dank memes. I really want to save Arini's older work because a lot of his older work is damn good. Okay.
Well, it's like with regards to the influence of Logo Rising and stuff. I mentioned this off air, but how many people here are familiar with the Legion of Saint Ambrose?
Oh, you were mentioning that before we went on the air. The Orthodox group that the guy who screwed his mother-in-law made.
Yes, Matthew Heimbach, formerly of the Traditionalist Worker Party. Guess who's back? Back again. Heimbach's back. Tell a friend. He's got this new group called the Legion of St. Ambrose. They literally go around dressed in all black, wearing face masks, carrying Catholic and Orthodox flags, talking about how they're warriors for Christ and they're going to take back America from all this degeneracy. They're going around, a bunch of fat dudes going around on all black in the Deep South during the summer. They look absolutely ridiculous. They're led by a Fed and a guy who is known for the worst kinds of neo-Nazi LARPing escapades. And this happens just as the whole Logos Rising thing is getting started, as E. Michael Jones and interest in Christianity is peaking among the dissident right. That's not a coincidence, my friends. That is Fed ops in the air.
Yeah,
I think the Mega Blocks were trying to sabotage it.
No, but with all due respect, send me that link, Matt. I want you on tomorrow on my podcast, by the way. Is that what it is? Let me see it. See if I can see it.
I'm going to bring in a couple of callers, and then we're probably going to wrap things up not too long.
Gotcha. So. I'm going to head out myself.
All right. Thanks for calling in.
Digital Renegade Podcast tomorrow night at 8 p.m. PST. Pacific, yes. I'll see you around.
Okay. Bring in a couple callers here.
Yeah, I mean, look at these imbeciles. Well, the other thing, too, is this is like orthodox.
Kind of look like Antifa.
No, that's literally the tag tactic the Antifa use, black bloc.
Who's the guy on the side in the dark shades there? Looks like he kind of crapped his pants and he doesn't want. He's hoping nobody notices.
I have no idea.
Is that the Kyrgyzstan flag?
That thing right there. It's funny. Dashing Rogue just left. That's like a literal chaos symbol used by in esoteric philosophy. It's used by Alexander Dugin and Duginists.
Wait, I know what that is. That's the tic-tac-toe game.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to add one more thing too. Is like these people are going around like they're LARPing as there's a bit of Catholicism with them, but they're primarily all Orthodox. Like if you're going to appeal to Americans, you have to rely on Americana. Okay, like Orthodox Christianity, it may be great and wonderful. If there are any Orthodox bros in the audience, that's great. I hope it works for you. Orthodox Christianity has no historic roots in America. America was founded by Protestants with a bit of Catholic influence. Like Orthodox Christians are entirely like it has as much connection to America as Islam does.
Dude, most Americans see Orthodox Christians are like, why are those guys? Why are those guys heading to a Renaissance fair or something?
All right, you want to appeal to America? You want to appeal to Middle America? LARP is Billy Graham.
There you go.
I mean, like I said, they're going around Tennessee doing this, like deep South, like the most like historically Protestant evangelical part of the country, and they're going to go as the Romanian Iron Guard from the 1940s. This thing can do nothing but fail and make Christians look bad. Which
are they burning books? Are they burning books?
Oh, nothing says America like a good old fashioned.
That's one thing they brag about doing. They burn books. They're like, we buy all.
Totally not Nazis.
Nothing endears you to Americans like a good old fashioned book burning. That's just really popular.
No, actually, there was periods of time where American evangelicals or Protestants did engage in book burning.
Well, trust me, it wasn't too long ago. I remember the cringiness of a bunch of fucking guys down in Texas burning Harry Potter books because they thought it was the devil.
Well, I remember some Christians recently burning Bibles because they were the wrong translation for them.
But honestly, like
book burning is American as apple pie.
I'm going to give you.
You're looking at
you're out there burning books. You look like an asshole to everyone that doesn't even agree. Everyone that doesn't totally agree with you thinks you look like a shithead.
And it doesn't even accomplish its goal. Nice. It doesn't even accomplish its goal. Like book burning had some symbolic importance in the pre-internet days because books was where the majority of people got their information. But if people are getting paused and getting into homosex and feminism and all this stuff, I can guarantee you it ain't because of some feminist tome they got assigned to in college. They got paused because of the internet. The symbolic equivalent of a book burning in the modern era would be like cutting fiber optic lines.
Matt,
these guys
Matt, these guys are probably all in food stamps. They can't afford to be throwing iPads on the fire.
Start throwing SD cards. We've downloaded Narnita Sarkisian's videos onto this SD card. We're burning it now.
What is that? That's a Cairo with a sword? That's a pretty nice symbol, though, to be honest.
We printed out a bunch of pictures from this porno site. They were going to burn those.
Be like China. Just censor the fuck if you could.
Oh, yeah, but they're not going to cut fiber optic line. Even if they got the idea, they just start cutting lines at random and kill themselves. This is a fiber optic line. No, that's a power line. Don't cut into. Oh, he's dead.
Oh, he's got a rebel flag there. Good going there, jackass.
The two guys on the right look. I'm not trying to be mean. They look retarded. I'm not the right. The rebel flag guy and the guy in like the kind of blue button.
Yeah, that's totally American, bro. That literally is the flag of a nation that was defeated in a fucking war. Like
I will say, he will reach more people with that rebel flag though than he will with the green flag down in the south.
That's true, but fucking still rebel scum either way.
Hey, save your Confederate money, boys. The South will rise again.
And we'll just burn it to the ground again.
Yeah, dang war, northern aggression, Yankees.
Look at this gang of guys here. And this is
a bunch of LARPers, bro.
Where's my reparations for Sherman's March? Speaking of, people talking about reparations nowadays.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Chris, you got that picture I sent about the Pride thing? I actually took that out of my bank on Thursday.
Oh yeah. Let me. I'll
what's this group called, Bechtloff? I don't even. What do they freaking call themselves?
The Legion of St. Ambrose.
Legion of St. Ambrose.
The Legion of Losers.
I guess I'm a loser now because my picture is literally a freaking droid.
The Legion of Trailer Trash.
I think you said that this was like a Fed op. I think that's very possible, and I'm sure all these organizations are infiltrated by informants.
When the feds come, they're not sending their best.
But yeah, I mean, look at those guys. Which one is the?
It's obvious.
Whoever's not behind on their rent is the Fed.
But it's the guy in the flannel shirt. He's the Fed.
Yeah. Which one is not in debt?
It turns out they're all feds, and they're trying to get. None of them are aware that the others are feds.
Well, actually, that happened in what was his name? David Cole told me a funny story when he was in Germany, and he got invited to some like neo-Nazi thing, and everyone there except for this gay couple were all working for different law enforcement agencies, but none of them knew that. Like they didn't share information with each other, so it was all feds. Except for these like two fags that were like to dress up like Nazis, because let's be honest, the Nazis had some really, really cool uniforms, and I think that's one of the reasons the gays are really attracted to that Nazi fashion. But
shiny boots, they love it.
It was the boots, man. Germany leads the world in boot manufacturing.
Those are some nice boots.
They did. They build nice boots and nice tanks too. And I understand they're kind of.
If you're gonna put it on someone's neck, you want to do your best.
Yeah, and I hear they're good at building showers too. Some rumor about that. But anyway.
Yeah, but I heard there was wooden doors on them. That's
you
no
just
good.
Oh no, you're gonna get yourself showing there. Be careful.
Tom Bombadil sends 199. It says E. Michael Jones is a cyborg from the future. Okay.
Okay, that picture there I took at. I'm sorry it didn't come out well. I thought it came out well when I took the picture with my phone. I had to do business at my bank the other day. And that is there is a card now you can get wearing your pride on your credit card. So every time you buy something, you're telling someone you're a fag.
This is such shameless, pandering. Okay, just play devil's advocate here for a second. If there's any gay guys in the audience, you realize that they didn't start pandering to you until they were certain it was safe. Once it became safe to do, then every fucking corporation's your buddy. Give us your money, homo.
Bechtloff, they don't care. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier with bio-Leninism. They want have no power outside of what these corporations give them, so they're going to relish it. And also, they want validation. That's the homosexual impulse.
I was gonna say, have you guys heard of a YouTube channel called John Mark?
No.
You have to watch a couple of his videos, but he had an excellent point where he said, what the left sells is status. That's what they're selling to a lot of the various minority groups is status. What do the feminists want? They want status. That's why it doesn't matter if Captain Marvel or Ghostbusters flops. They don't want it to be a monetary success. They want the status. They want you, when you think of Ghostbusters, they want you to think of the women Ghostbusters. They want to be seen as have the same status as the men Ghostbusters. And so they feel like that white men have this undue status and nobody else has that, so everybody else has got to have it. So that's why representation is important. That's why you've got to have all of these movies. You've got to have these characters. There's got to be a gay character, a Muslim character, and everything. That's what they're selling is status.
Oh yeah, they've ruined one of my
the quote that he
shows.
put is when Jay-Z was asked about Trump, and it's well, why do you not like Trump? He's done so much for black people. He's cut down on black unemployment, and Jay-Z said it's not about money, it's about respect. And it was a really good way of putting it.
Well, look at the left. They ruined one of my favorite childhood franchises. Fucking Star Wars. They went and bastardized this shit. And fucking Disney got, it's all this representation. I was watching a video from one of the Star Wars channel. I was because they were talking about it that they didn't support. I was disgusted with the interviews. I was like, what do they do? It's just disgusting.
And I don't agree with everything John Mark says, but that was a good point. You're going to have a good point when a good point's made.
Yeah, well, I was never a believer that Hollywood just does everything for the money, because that's blatantly not true. They're pushing an agenda. Organizations like Hollywood are filled with mostly homosexual atheistic Jews. Let's be honest. Even that even that there was that joke, I think it was on Larry Davidson show. I didn't watch the show, but it was funny. It's Jews control Hollywood. No, gay Jews control Hollywood. So it was even they were saying it. So if you look at the influence of homosexuality in Hollywood, and I think Matt, you said Israel is or Jews in general are disproportionately more likely to be homosexual.
Yeah.
So, what was that thing Dave Chappelle said right before he went crazy and moved to Africa, where he's like, "How come every black guy to get a movie deal has got to put on a dress?"
Yeah, well, that's my point. It's not about money. These people are specifically pushing an agenda. Also, these people already have status. These people in power, and they already have all the money they're gonna ever need. So it's not about that. It's about pushing a specific agenda.
Roosh had that good article recently. Well, it's Roosh had that good article recently. He said basically, corporations were never intended to make money. The purpose of corporations is to control people.
Real quick, White Wolf sends $2 says, Tom, it's not about status, it's about validation.
I would counter say, what's validation but a type of status? That your views are, your position is acceptable, that it's okay. That's what they make a big deal about it. It's having that status as acceptable. For the homosexual people, it absolutely is essential for them that their relationships be seen as equal to heterosexual relationships, even though they're not. They're not equal. They're not the same thing. But it is important for so many homosexuals that it's seen as equal. It's to have that same status.
No, it's not.
And that's the thing,
not for the ones in charge, but for the ones that are supporting this, for the people that are out there in the streets. That's what I'd argue for them. Yes, it is about that.
Years ago, they used to be like, "Oh, we just want to be left alone. We just want to be left alone." And look, that's an argument I'm pretty sympathetic towards, because being left alone is my favorite thing in the world.
Well, I don't really.
But that's clearly not what they wanted.
No,
because once they got that,
were left alone. People accepted that there were gays, and for the most part, they were left alone. It's when they started to have these giant, outdoor fag parties, like in New York and stuff like that, that there was crackdowns.
And look, when at the end of the day, I would say it's because they know deep down they're not supposed to be doing this, and that's why they want the constant validation.
Well, yeah, I mean,
do any of you feel the need to constantly have everyone fucking validate the way you live your life? No, because you don't no normal person needs that. No healthy person needs to have everyone constantly tell them, "Oh, you're stunning and brave."
Sin always needs to justify itself.
Exactly. Like, it's my part of. I'm not gonna say I'm perfect, but I generally tend to. I'll say there's a part of my life which I'm kind of a have-not, as the rest of the average male here has had. But I'd get shamed to hell for, oh, you're a virgin. What the fuck's wrong with you, dude? I'm like, so you have to be a complete godless freak of nature in the clown world now? That's what it is.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's where they want you to think, because they want you to think that that's normal as a way to justify the sin.
They're insecure because they don't. You have something that they don't.
Which is, again, right, and it's about what? The suppression of suppression of truth and their unrighteousness.
Well, why
we gotta hold it down.
What is your argument about why all these left-wing groups that are always, like, say, pro-gay, for example, why do they encourage the importation of large groups of extremely devout Muslims who literally, what is? I mean, I have my theories.
I would say it's because leftism is just certainly modern leftism is a death cult, and they're going to side with whatever is most destructive. So the fags are kind of wearing at the social fabric, but then these guys are actually just straight up blowing shit up. So all of a sudden they're the new stars.
Well, I would say you'd have to distinguish between the people who are in charge versus the sort of the useful idiots who would sort of support it. I think for the people who are in charge, they're doing this to further tear down society. It's like you're said, it's a weapon to further just dissolve and to just tear down society, because they want to tear it down to rebuild it in their own image.
Exactly. That's why people aren't doing anything about the incel problem, for example, because it's destroying society. Who cares?
The reason why I think a lot of people, the useless idiots, do it is because they're trying to maintain a sense of consistency. You really can't call yourself tolerant and say, oh, but except for towards those Muslim people. The other thing is that they sort of view Muslims, since the right people on the right don't really like Islam. Well, now we're going to like it, right? It's this, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Maybe they're just misjudging Islam, and it's not really like that. Just like they misjudged me, and they misjudged black people, and they misjudge white people, and they misjudge women, and all this kind of stuff. So we got to be tolerant. It's nice, and they're just misunderstood, and it's not all Muslims, and yada yada yada, and that's what they buy into.
Anybody else have their theories on that, or they agree or disagree?
I pretty much agree.
Well, I mean, it also fits in with the principles of bio-Leninism, because immigrants are yet another Muslim immigrants are yet another group that would be powerless in society if it weren't for the governments and society lifting them up. So you get another group of people who are utterly loyal to the system.
Yeah, I agree with Matt on that. It's a further way of atomizing society as a whole. If you just keep dividing it into smaller and smaller groups, and what that does is it just creates a group where no one can rise up, right? So because you just constantly have all these people in power. Matt pointed out, like, if you look at the birth of the Soviet Union, the way that who did they take and put in charge? And they were the most loyal and the most ruthless.
Until the Doctor's Plot in Israel.
So you see what happened, and it's kind of you could kind of make an argument, like, when society does become homogeneous, that you look at Nazi Germany, for example. People do become xenophobic in a sense, because that is the natural state of man. To trust people outside your tribe less than you trust people in your tribe. So, the old expression, blood is thicker than water. And I believe that is a natural state of man, is to be tribal. And that's, so I think there is a sound method to their madness.
We can look at China. It's still got the CPC, and they're pretty extremely xenophobic from what I can see.
Well, look at Japan, for example. Now they're wearing Japan down, but Japan maintained even after they were defeated. Japan is a classic example why the only thing that truly can destroy a nation state
eternally
is a destruction of the people. Is because Japan, as you know, has suffered invasions. They suffered, being conquered. They suffered famines. They suffered internal strife. Civil war. Everything.
Japan has plenty.
But
it's not so much invasions though, because they're an island.
Well, they were invaded by the United States. They were occupied.
Yeah,
so they were
that
occupied.
Case, but I definitely say the Chinese have more because they are on the land. From Japan, the Mongolians.
Well, yeah, the Chinese are not necessarily purely ethnically homogeneous like the Japanese.
It's majority, like
right.
90%.
Let me just get this point out about Japan. So Japan is a classic example of this. Like up until very, very recently, I think it's still technically law in Japan. Like you can't own a business over there unless you're Japanese. They don't have like things like birthright citizenship or things like that.
Well, Korea, things like that too.
Japan is already getting worn down. They elected an Indian got elected to the Tokyo City Council a couple months ago.
That's my point. Like now they're starting to be worn down because I don't know if any of you've seen the film Lost in Translation. It was like
I've seen that.
But it kind of showed the difference between the traditional Japan and the modern Japan. Like they have like all these ridiculous talk shows and the Japanese dyeing their hair blonde and all this kind of stuff. So they've been infected with
degeneracy.
So they, but for centuries, Japan maintained its homogeneous status and nothing, people saying, why do nations rise and fall? Like, why did Rome fall? Well, the reason like Rome fell, for example, is no longer Roman. And that's why, so that's what will happen to the United States. I mean, just look at demographics now. The United States, everybody says, oh, if you just turn to Jesus, that might be great for the afterlife. But in the here and now, demographics is everything.
Well, the reason why the demographics are bad because we abandoned God in the first place, and we've become these godless freaks of nature. Typically,
you could say we kind of replaced our. When I say we, I mean the royal we. We replaced God with
pagan deities,
say false idols like money or status or power or. Almost to the point where sin has become a god in its own way, like, how you can be more and more degenerate.
Well, and you also hinted on something else, which is a message that's been, preached for a long time in America. You said that, a people, thinking of it as a people. One of the things that's sort of been preached so much in the United States and sort of, larger Western civilization is, hyper individualism, right? The idea, I mean, I heard this all the time growing up from various people. It's my life. I can do whatever I want with it. It doesn't affect you, all this kind of stuff. The idea that, our decisions don't affect the people around us, that they're just some completely isolated. And, they were shown that. They were preached that message in movies. They were preached that message in music. They were preached that message in TVs and that kind of stuff, and people were seeing that. And a lot of people adopted it, and it became every man for himself.
Exactly.
And every woman for himself.
It's harming the collective.
And so it's no longer about any kind of greater good or anything like that, and that's where it comes from, well, rather than being a part of a church or being a part of a community or being a part of a family, it's, well, what's this doing for me?
I don't really...
So then, it reflects the attitudes of a society that isn't threatened by homosexuality. This may seem like an ambiguous statement to make, since those of Baroque sexuality have often in sneering and pushy voices asked, "Are you threatened by my sexuality?" Or at least they used to. Now, of course, we know that that question was in itself a threat. The fullness of it, including the unspoken portion, would go something like, "Are you threatened by my sexuality? Well, if not, just you wait. You'll be paying astronomical fines for not wanting to bake a cake for my wedding, or..."
That's kind of ironic coming from millennial woes, but...
Well, yeah, your sexuality does threaten me.
Well, technically that was quoting from Anti-Dem.
Oh.
All right. Well, I'm going to probably wrap this up because I'm getting tired as hell. I had about 4 hours sleep last night, so I'm starting to get ready to want to crash. But everybody who called in, thanks. Everybody who was guests. I know Arjun had to leave earlier, but thank you all for being on. If you enjoy the content I put out, do consider checking out the tip jars down below. PayPal, Patreon, Amazon wishlist. Always you can support the show. Instead of giving money to someone like Lauren Southern, as she laughs at you while getting railed by Tyrone, you can support me as I just, make you laugh.
Before we log off,
by Tyrone
for the show.
Oh, what's that, Luke?
First, from the religious
Israel first.
livings, it will be something like this. Oh no, the Jews aren't our misfortune. We owe everything to the Jews. Don't you know that Jesus was a Jew and God was his father? That makes God a Jew. We must do what the Jews tell us. They are God's people.
William Pierce.
I of course disavow that. Please don't show me.
Here's a more apt message though. Oh no! Don't clip.
People are losing faith because they don't see how what you've turned the religion into applies to them. They've lost touch with any idea of any kind of religion, and when they have no mythology to try and live their lives by, well, they just start spewing a bunch of crap out of their mouths.
All right. Well, everybody, I want to thank you all for being on, as always. And that's about all we got for tonight. Bechtloff out.